It was a cold, rainy night when the delivery order came in. I worked for a local restaurant, making late-night deliveries to those who craved a taste of comfort in the wee hours. I was used to delivering food to sketchy places in my town, like the rough neighborhoods and such. In short, I've seen it all and been everywhere. This order, however, would turn out to be far from routine and far from what I even knew. The address led me to the outskirts of town, a place I had never ventured before. The address was literally within 50 meters of the range limit where we deliver. I tried to ask my manager to just cancel the order and let me go home early, but he insisted that I go. The rain pounded on the roof of my car as I navigated through dimly lit streets, the glow of my headlights cutting through the darkness. The GPS guided me to a secluded mansion-type home at the end of a winding road. It loomed ominously against the backdrop of the stormy night. It wasn't quite as large as a typical mansion, but it was definitely up there. Reluctantly, I approached the front door, the rain soaking through my jacket. The mansion's windows were dark and no sound escaped its imposing exterior. With a shiver, I pressed the doorbell, its echo resonating through the silence. After a moment, the door creaked open, revealing an elderly woman in a tattered nightgown. Her eyes were vacant, and a peculiar smell wafted through the doorway. That typical old people smell. It was exactly the type of person I was imagining would be living in the mansion. I handed her the bag, my breath visible in the chilly air. "Thank you," she mumbled, her voice barely audible over the rain. Her skeletal hand reached out, the dim light revealing long, gnarled nails. I forced a smile, eager to escape the eerie atmosphere. I wasn't trying to hang around in the cold too long. As I turned to leave, she spoke again, her words sending a shiver down my spine. "Won't you come in, young man? It's not safe out there in this storm." Instinct screamed at me to decline, but I hesitated. The allure of warmth and shelter was tempting, and there's just something about an old lady inviting you in for a cup of tea that's irresistible. She wasn't creepy looking, besides the fact that she was super skinny and had those weird-looking eyes. Against my better judgment, I stepped inside, the door creaking shut behind me. The interior was dimly lit, the air heavy with an unsettling stillness. The woman led me through a grand hallway adorned with faded portraits. The mansion seemed frozen in time, its grandeur now a decaying relic of the past. Old portrait paintings lined the walls, chandeliers hung from the ceiling, and even the wallpaper looked like it was taken straight from the 1750s. The old, creaking floorboards beneath my feet echoed in the emptiness. We entered a cavernous dining room where a single candle flickered on an ancient table. The old people smell got stronger and seemed to morph more into a decaying smell, mingling with a sickly sweet scent. I felt a knot tightening in my stomach, but I chalked it up to nerves. I couldn't just leave now. "Please have a seat." The woman gestured toward an ornate chair at the head of the table. I obliged, the wood groaning beneath me. She disappeared into the shadows, returning with a tarnished silver tray. My face crinkled with confusion as she uncovered the tray. A singular piece of meat in the center of the tray, maybe the size of a 12-ounce steak. That's when it hit me. A nauseating stench so fucking strong that I had to cover my mouth or else I would have thrown up right onto that damn tray. Horror gripped me, and I stumbled backward, the chair scraping against the floor. The woman's hollow eyes bore into mine as a sinister grin stretched across her face. "Hungry?" she whispered, her voice dripping with malevolence. I stammered, my eyes watering from the smell and my mind racing for an escape. The once inviting warmth now felt like a suffocating embrace. I mumbled an excuse, pushing the chair away, and rushed towards the exit. The old woman's laughter echoed through the mansion as I fled into the storm. Rain-soaked and breathless, I fumbled with my car keys, the mansion's windows now illuminated by a dim, eerie light. The laughter persisted, haunting me as I sped away from that accursed place. Back at the restaurant, I recounted the surreal encounter to my coworkers. Their faces suddenly turned serious, and they exchanged uneasy glances, revealing a shared knowledge of the mansion's dark history. An urban legend of sorts. Legend spoke of a family that had descended into madness, performing unspeakable rituals in a quest to attain immortality, including consuming human flesh. Shortly after, they all burst out into laughter and told me that they were fucking with me, and that they do it to every new guy that goes there for the first time. No one knew the lady's name, so they all just referred to her as Greta. As for what I had told them, they said that it was probably just some meat that had gone off, and the old lady didn't realize because she's blind or something. Days passed, but the encounter lingered in my thoughts like a festering wound. Nightmares plagued my sleep, visions of decaying feasts and hollow eyes haunting my every moment. I questioned my sanity, wondering if the mansion's malevolence had left an indelible mark on my soul. I tried putting things together in my head, but none of it made sense. Something was obviously off in that place. It wasn't just some crazy old lady serving expired steak. One evening, as I made another routine delivery, the GPS directed me back to the mansion. Dread seized me, but an irresistible force drew me closer. I wanted to analyze the situation again and get the answers to all my questions. I started to get déjà vu as the rain fell in a relentless downpour as I approached the door, the mansion standing silent and foreboding. The door creaked open, and the old woman appeared once more, her eyes void of emotion. Without a word, she gestured for me to enter. A sick compulsion urged me forward, and I found myself once again in the dining room, the grotesque feast laid out before me. The exact same smell hit me as before, this horrifying smell of decay, one that I couldn't compare to anything else. I again stood up and covered my face and gagged hard, but this time I took the chance to look around more. The old lady just kept on laughing and told he to sit back down and enjoy my meal. I couldn't seem to find anything out of the ordinary in the mansion, so I decided to ask the lady to show me around the kitchen. To my surprise, this worked, and she motioned me over. As we approached, the smell got worse and worse. I had to put my shirt over my face to be able to breathe. The lady opened the door, and everything seemed normal, apart from a few blue industrial-sized barrels in the corner. I asked what was inside, to which she simply smiled and didn't respond. I noticed that one of the barrels was slightly open, so I decided to step forward to have a look what was inside. At this point, I was having trouble seeing because my eyes were tearing up again. As soon as I began to take a couple steps forward, the lady whispered, "Stop, they're asleep." They? I thought. Who the fuck are they? Then the realization hit me like a truck. It was human meat. There were fucking dead people in there. Without hesitation, I barged past the old lady who seemed to be trying to block the door and sprinted as fast as I could out of the kitchen, out of the mansion to my car, and got the hell out of there. On the way back to the restaurant, I tried to put it all together in my head. I didn't know for sure there were people in there, but the smell, the tales, the lady's response, it had to be. As soon as I got back to the restaurant, I immediately told everyone what I had just seen. At first, no one believed me and thought I was joking, but as I pleaded them more and more, their faces changed, and they appeared to believe me. We agreed to call the cops as soon as possible and go as a team to that mansion, so they would know I wasn't bullshitting them like they did to me. We arrived around the same times as the cops did. We watched from behind our cars as they stormed the mansion, and around 10 minutes later dragged the old lady and a couple of old guys out. As the old lady was being forced into the car, we locked eyes with each other. Her eyes still void of any emotion, but somehow I could tell that she was angry at me, and at the same time disappointed with me, even without her facial expression changing. After sorting out all their usual police stuff and securing the area, one of the cops came up to us and after a brief exchange of words, informed us that there were in fact human remains in the kitchen. I looked at my colleagues, and I could tell that they felt stupid for not believing me the first time round. I was just happy that whatever sickness went on behind those doors was now over. Without waiting around, I got into my car and drove home in silence. After some time, a thought popped into my head. The cops dragged out 2 guys from the mansion. The place was big, yeah, but I didn't see anyone but the old lady the whole time. Maybe that's how they got their meat. Maybe that's why she was blocking the door when I sprinted out of the kitchen. Maybe that's how you end up on a silver fucking platter in some mansion in the middle of butt-fuck nowhere because you overstayed your welcome in some crazy lady's house. I don't know, but still to this day it bothers me that I don't have all the answers. What I do have is peace of mind that I may have possibly prevented some poor bastard ending up in one of those barrels. Nowadays, you have Uber Eats and all these apps with verifiable accounts. Back in the 90s, however, it was a very different story. I'm glad that we have what we have now, and no one needs to experience the shit we went through back in the day. The city night sprawled before me as I maneuvered the UPS truck through dimly lit streets, each flickering street lamp casting long, ominous shadows. My delivery destination led me to the gritty part of town, a place I thought I had left behind, the old neighborhood I once called home. As I parked the truck near an abandoned warehouse, a sense of nostalgia mingled with unease. The address on the package matched an apartment complex where I spent my tumultuous youth, running with a gang that thrived on the darker side of the city. I shook off the memories, reminding myself that I had long severed ties with that life. The package, a nondescript cardboard box, felt heavier in my hands as I walked through the familiar graffiti-covered alleyways. I approached the apartment door with a mix of trepidation and familiarity. I hesitated before knocking, the rhythmic pounding echoing the erratic beats of my heart. The door swung open, revealing a group of figures clad in the gang's colors, my former comrades. The air grew tense as recognition flashed in their eyes. "Well, look who decided to pay us a visit," sneered the leader, his face a twisted mask of tattoos and scars. I tried to keep my composure, masking the fear that clawed at my insides. "Just making a delivery, guys. No trouble here." As I was finishing my sentence, I hears footsteps behind me. I recognized the figure from the corner of my eye. It was Big Ron. I was now stuck between my old leader and Big Ron in a narrow alley. This 6'8", 300-pound guy was not someone I could get past so easily, so my mind raced through options of how I could get the hell out of there. Laughter erupted from the gang members, their eyes narrowing with suspicion. "A delivery, huh? Let's see what you brought us," the leader demanded, snatching the package from my hands. His tone seemed almost sarcastic. As he tore through the tape, the contents spilled out, a cache of drugs meticulously packaged for distribution. Dread coiled in my stomach. I had unwittingly become the courier for a delivery that connected my past to a dangerous present. The leader's grin widened as he looked at me knowingly. Well, if it ain't our old friend who thought he could leave this life behind. By now I had realized that this was all a setup. Somehow they knew I worked for UPS and planned this whole thing in such a way that I would be the one delivering the package. It was all an excuse to get back into the shitty life that I had left behind. Panic surged through me and memories of the gang's ruthlessness flooded my mind. I stumbled backward, trapped between the shadows of my past and the looming threat of the present. "You can't just walk away, old-timer," the leader growled, his demeanor shifting from amusement to menace. "You're in this now." Desperation clawed at me as I pleaded, "I'm out, guys. I don't want any part of this anymore." The gang closed in, their faces a blend of contempt and amusement. The leader handed me one of the bricks, as we would call them, his tone dripping with malice. "Deliver it at your next stop. This is your ticket back in." Reluctantly, I took the package, the weight of my past and the ominous present bearing down on me. I had no choice. There was no way I was getting past Big Ron, and I couldn't show any signs of weakness. The gang watched as I left the apartment, their laughter echoing in the narrow alley. There was no way in hell I was going back to that lifestyle. I was sat there in my truck, staring as a whole kilo of coke in my hand worth probably somewhere in the realm of $60,000 to $70,000. I knew that no matter what, if I deliver the package, I'm fucked. Either they kill me on the spot, or I get forced back into this shit. I had limited time as the next stop was only 2 miles away, so I knew they'd be awaiting my arrival on both ends. I quickly drove in the opposite direction to this park which had a large lake in it. I got out of my truck and threw the brick as far as I could. I then drove back to the UPS center where I began my journey from, told the senior manager that I quit and drove home in my personal car. This wasn't a situation I was willing to fuck around and find out. I was single at the time and lived in a tiny apartment. I packed all my shit, leaving furniture and large objects like lamps and stuff behind. On the way down with my final bag of stuff, I called the landlord, letting him know I had to immediately move out. He was cool about it, so he just told me to pay an extra month of rent so he can find a new tenant, a small price to pay in exchange for my life. Just like that, within around 40 minutes of the encounter, I was on my way across the country from South Carolina to Denver, where my uncle lived. Since then, I've started a new life in Denver. I'm now engaged with my girlfriend of 4 years and we have a child on the way. I found a new job and I'm happy to be away from that gang life. Still, I can't help but think that one day they might discover where I am. If they manage to find where I work and at what times, who knows if one day they'll come knocking on my door this time. It's been a good 7 years since then, but you just can't ever be too careful. Since I'm still not comfortable revealing my true identity, my name is Patrick, and I urge anyone thinking about joining any type of gang to never ever do it. Trust me, living your life in constant fear is not it. As hard as you think you are, it will always catch up to you. Sometimes when you least expect it.